Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
Good morning, everybody. This morning, I'm talking to Deanna Burger from Toronto, and she is the co-founder of Community, which offers Canadian-made, high-quality, 100% cotton reusable masks, holders, and organizers. Now, Deanna has over 20 years of experience in corporate marketing, sales enablement, and sponsorship strategy. And she has a history of successfully leading teams at Fortune 100 companies. Deanna's main focus has always been developing and executing marketing and sponsorship campaigns with the goal of elevating the customer experience to achieve business results. And she is also an advocate for the safety of women and children in Canada. So I want to talk to her about that as well. Deanna started a business with masks before masks were mandatory in this country. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. And thank you very much for the very nice introduction.
You're very
always
welcome.
a little awkward hearing about yourself.
Right.
But yeah, so right at the beginning of the pandemic, almost a year ago, I cannot believe that timing. But my son and I had been home under mandatory stay-at-home order across the province or really the country. And we'd been at home for about 2 weeks, and it was just we needed something else. We needed a little bit, more interaction with people. And we moved in with my sister, her husband, and their teenagers. It was wonderful. We had, dinners together, and we played in the backyard. It was a really lovely mix. And one morning over breakfast, right at the beginning of April, we were talking about how grateful we were that we could provide, food for our kids. We could socially distance or physically distance and stay at home, and our homes were safe. And this conversation of gratitude really turned into a conversation of, well, what do we do now? And how can we help those that are essential workers, people who are not able, to feed their children, which, to me, that is just an impossible decision or impossible situation to be in if you do not have the funds for food and hydro and all of that. And the conversation developed into a need to do something. So we decided that I had a contact in manufacturing. I knew of a textile wholesaler, and we were like, well, just make a couple of masks and ease our bills, but really donate back to Food Banks Canada and just help people who need it. Mm-hmm. And that decision, really within the next week, we outgrew our manufacturer. Within 2, we outgrew the next one, and we needed within the first month to full, large scale professional manufacturing teams with, hundreds of sewers. It was really quite a massive shift in something that we thought would be a moment in time that we would do once. And a year later, we are still going strong.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So what were you doing for work at that time when you came up with this?
Yeah. So I had in 2017, I decided I was working full time at a SaaS-based scale up, which I loved. And I decided to also go back to school and do my MBA. So I went to Rotman. I did the executive MBA, which takes the full 2-year program and condenses it into 13 months. I also, we started in September in school, and I was 3 weeks pregnant with my son. I had him in April. I graduated in October. and then took a mat leave when he was about 5 or 6 months old. And during that time, really looked at what am I interested in? What do I want to go back to work with? A short time after I went back to work, the company was acquired, and I took that moment to, again, kind of figure out what I wanted to do. So I started consulting within marketing for small and medium companies who were looking or who had a gap between the corporate strategy, direction of the board of directors or the C-suite and the tactics that the marketing teams needed to execute in order to satisfy those objectives. And then the pandemic hit and those contracts kind of fizzled away, rightfully so. And I understand that because, big question mark around this pandemic. And so I had a little bit time to think. And that moment of what do we want to do and who do we want to be in this time of crises for the world really kind of stood out as a highlight for me. That purpose-driven initiative where it's not just about business, it's not just about the bottom line, it's not just about manufacturing, which is I have zero experience in manufacturing, supply chain, direct consumer, but did it anyway, which is super fun. So,
yeah. Well, as an MBA, you understand math, right? You understand, right?
Yes.
The wholesale cost, the retail cost, things like that. Now, I recall in April 2020, some people were saying, it might be a good idea to wear a mask. And we're trying to get masks for healthcare workers.
Yes.
They were in short supply, but it wasn't really seen as something like that. Everybody was going to be wearing a mask. So how did you connect with customers back in April 2020 when it wasn't really seen as something that everybody needed to have?
How did we communicate the value of a mask?
Yeah, exactly.
It was really looking at the WHO, the CDC, and Health Canada data, looking at what's the trending, what is happening in Asia and other countries that are a little bit further down the line in the pandemic and their response to that. We know as a society that Asian communities have for a long time, really embraced the wearing masks as a cultural, almost politeness, but behavior for sure. So really looking at this is something that we need to provide. This is something that people will need to be healthy and safe. And as a parent, or we just had that discussion of, well, we want to protect our kids, and we have to make sure as a society we leave the truly medical devices and protection for the medical team. It's not something that we should have. So we dug into the data, we dug into the needs and the criteria from the WHO, CDC, and Health Canada perspective. And one of the amazing things about the rapid pace of just the mask industry in North America specifically is we were able to, in small lots, iterate and version control and improve on almost like a weekly basis. If not, sometimes we would make small adjustments within a week. So we would do small lots and we would test them and we would send them out. And the iteration process was fast. Nothing about it. It was one of those things that I kept reflecting on, where in business school, they do not advocate you go into a business or launch one where there's a global scarcity, where there's a pandemic, where you have no access to historical data. So
right.
A lot of it was really going by feel and gut and thinking about, where are the holes, what would I need as a consumer, where are my pain points, what would I want to know to understand, and then kind of course correct as fast as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you talk about iterations, are you talking about like the way the mask fits or the way it looked or things like that?
All of that. It was really being in tune with, again, those recommendations from the thought leaders, so the WHO, CDC, and Health Canada, really making sure that we were always up to date on their current recommendations, incorporating those into our designs, the feature and structures, but also really from the get-go, it wasn't just cotton to us. It was like, you know what? The cotton has such a massive spectrum to it. It can be, cotton sheeting that has great big holes, that isn't finished, that isn't fine, isn't also nice on your face, to, much higher quality, more refined or refinedly woven cotton, which, first of all, let's pause. Never thought that I would know this much about cotton. But we really tried to look at what are the nice things to have on your face. What I want from, teenagers, everyone struggles with their skin. What is going to feel the nicest? What would I want to wear? How is this going to fit on my face? But also, there's so many out there that are just ill-fitting and unattractive. What is the streamlined look that I would want? Right. If we are going to wear these 12 hours a day, it's going to have to hit a few marks for us. And we really tried to elevate the recommendations and make them improve them as we could. Right.
So walk us through that a little bit. Like, who is the customer? Are you distributing to wholesalers, people who supply stores, or how does it get to the customer?
So for us, it is, we've been direct to consumer from day one. So we have an online shop that you select them, and it's shipped out directly to you. Okay. We do a lot of corporate orders where they brand them, which of course we can do, and then we ship them out. From about the beginning of June, we had a pop-up shop for 6 months where we were open daily. The nice thing about where we were is it was a local pub that was around the corner from my sister and her husband's house, and that we'd gone to a lot. So we knew very well. And instead of having a patio, what they had was the front windows opened. So we were able to set our table and have a pop-up shop that people on the street could just come to the window. So that was a really nice way for people, not only in the neighborhood, but people who could order that night and pick it up that morning. So you didn't have to wait for things to be shipped to you, especially in an environment where you're told, at that time, don't leave your home except for essential trips. You must protect yourselves. And there was so much unknown about the pandemic itself, especially at the beginning in that March through to June. So having a pop-up shop gave us flexibility to service the customer in a direct way. Right. So we had the online shop, we had the pop-up shop. We actually had multiple around the city, and we traveled and we did, weekend pop-up shops just outside the city as well. But getting it to the customer, it definitely has been direct to consumer. We certainly are in a number of other shops. We are in hospital, gift shops. In those type of situations, what we try to do is discount it as much as we can so the hospital itself can benefit financially and support their own foundations and research. And we've done government contracts. We ship all around the world. We have a number of customers in the US as well. And Amazing. $1 from every product goes to Food Banks Canada. Outside of that, we have donated to women and children's shelters, and we've focused our efforts on connecting with the mental health space as well. So any foundations or clinics or in-field resources that need these types of products in order to service that community who needs their support. So we've really tried to work with them as well. It is definitely has been a purpose over profit endeavor for us.
Right. That's amazing. And so it sounds like it grew really, really fast.
Yes.
Were you able to keep up with all the orders? And
there definitely were moments where we were like, oh my gosh, there are so many. We can't physically do this. But one of the other great things about having a pop-up shop was we hired some students who had lost their jobs, like their summer camp jobs, to come and be our fulfillment team. So we had this space that we, that essentially was COVID free in our own little bubble with our high school students. And they would come in and help us all day, every day. And we as a family kind of did that together. So orders came fast and furious. And, there absolutely were times where we just couldn't fill them fast enough. And the manufacturer couldn't pick them up fast enough or make them. But the team that we have and that strategic partnership with our manufacturer has been essential to our success.
Awesome. Where is it manufactured? Where are the masks manufactured?
It's manufactured just outside Toronto in Markham.
Nice.
Yeah. So they have 3 different manufacturing plants around the outside of the city. But absolutely, we not only make it in Canada and do everything we can in Canada to keep all of those funds and local and help to support the financial health of Canada, but also just because it's so much easier where, okay, we have a meeting and it takes, 20 minutes to drive there and it is, as protective as possible. But sometimes you just need to have the product in your hand and say, no, I need this changed and this doesn't feel right to me and I want this done. And you just need to sit there. At least that's what I needed.
Right. That's awesome. So you said that you started this business with your family. What's that like, launching and running a business with your family?
I have to say there are some major wins. The major wins being you have this already level of trust and this, deep foundation that is a relationship that each other, the capabilities. There's a lovely rhythm to working with family. My sister and brother-in-law are, some of the closest things to me and the most important in my life. And that's been a really nice, it's been a really nice support. I think that, the challenges, of course, because there are always going to be some, the challenges sometimes is that you revert to your 16-year-old self.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're like, you don't understand me. And, it's because you know exactly how to push your sister's buttons.
Right.
But the wonderful...
But you know each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly.
So it works out.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I mean, one of the great things is that you can have these dust ups and then kind of 2 minutes later, you're like, so what are we having for dinner? And do you want to take a break and have a beer? And, oh, you did that so well. Like it just kind of water off the duck's back where you're like,
right.
Oh, wait, you're awesome. That's been really wonderful. I think one of the other really great things about working with family is that you have the opportunity to be really clear and like, I need a break, or, I'm going to take my kid here and I need this. And it is so much easier to express that to your family than potentially someone who doesn't understand you in the same way.
Right. Totally. So what about the future of this business? Do you see masks as a long-term business?
Well, I think that's a really interesting question. It's definitely something that we've been looking at as well, where, will this time and kind of the events over the last year, will it change our behavior as a society? Will we want to wear masks in winter? Like, I'm not sure about you, but, almost going through a whole winter and not having the flu or a cold or a runny nose all day. And like, that has been a game changer for me for this winter, especially having a toddler where, they lick everything and being able to have good night's sleeps and go outside and have fresh air and feel, even though there is this big risk in the world, but feel healthier, I think is going to really affect how we see the mask as opposed to necessarily being something that restricts us. I really hope that in society, we are seeing it more as our ability to have human connection, but also, taking a page from the Asian community where they wear masks as a sign of respect and conscientiousness for those around them. Like, oh, I'm not feeling as well, so I'm going to put this on to make sure I don't pass it to someone else. Like, I'm hopeful that we as a society will take a page from that and start to integrate masks into our everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we will absolutely wear them and be encouraged to wear them for at least another year,
Right.
especially as we look to the vaccines and the rollouts is so exciting, but it's going to take a long time. And that herd immunity, I believe that comes into play when it's about 80% vaccination. I think that in order to make sure that our most vulnerable are protected, those that can and should wear their masks and keep that level of protection should for the greater good. Beyond a year, I can see us integrating this a little bit more. I don't believe that we will have 100% or even 80% adoption. But I do think that there will be many people in a North American society who will wear these a little bit more frequently.
Yeah.
Do I think that it is something that we will produce for the next, 10 years? To be totally honest, I hope not. Not that I haven't loved this and not that we don't see a future in it, but it's a little bit more I would like to do something else. And we are looking at and have for the last number of months, or probably the last half year, is what are the pain points for our customers as parents? What are the challenges as people just in everyday society wearing these? How do we help to lessen the burden? So again, the mask is not seen as something you have to do, and that's hard, but more of this is what I can do. And in wearing a mask allows me to have connection and continue that, to see my friends and my loved ones and go outside.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you mentioned, the Asian community, I could see it as something in Toronto where it's crowded spaces. You can wear it. If you're not feeling well and you're going out, you're going to wear it. If you're hiking in the forest, maybe you're not going to wear it.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you're with your family, you're not necessarily going to wear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, when I even think about going on the subway, to me, that is I remember those very vividly and tactically, the rush hour where, I am not tall and someone who's holding the upper bar and my head is in their armpit. I don't want to be that close to someone anymore. But if I'm in that situation, I do want to feel a little bit more protected.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to take the subway every day. I went to the Toronto French School at Lawrence and Bayview.
Yes.
And I lived in Mississauga, so I'd take the subway all the way to Kipling.
Oh, right.
And then I would get picked up there. And sometimes of day, it was just packed. We couldn't even move. And other times we could goof off we were teenage boys, right? So we could run up in the cars and stuff. But sometimes it's just really a little bit gross. You're just in people's armpits, like you said.
Yeah. So, and I would like to believe that we're going to get to a place, hopefully, maybe the summer provides us a little bit of a break, but where, kids can go back to their activities and to camp and they don't necessarily need to wear their mask at all time. But if they do, still, I would love to see camps reopen. Again, looking at the mask as a way that we can do that, not necessarily as an inhibitor.
Right. Yeah. So you're a sole parent. You have a 3-year-old son.
Yes.
And what's that like with the crazy hours of being an entrepreneur and being a parent?
Well, I have a wonderful family, as we've kind of gone over. It wasn't until about June where I started to see my parents because my dad is in quite poor health and they're both in their later 70s. But what we've done over the last number of months is, we'll stay at our home for the week and my son goes to daycare. And then we go and see my parents for the weekend. So the nice thing about that is that I still get some time during the day with him, but then I get time during the day where my parents can take care of him and they can have one-on-one time and I can do some work. One of the things that I've definitely gotten very used to is working when he's asleep. and really understanding the prioritization of my time. And it's interesting because this phrase kind of has come up for me in the last number of months where in order to speed up, I've had to learn to slow down. And what I mean by that is I really have to be present with my son. I really want to be present with him because it's such a delightful age. Like I'm the center of his world. Who doesn't want to be surrounded by that? Mm-hmm. But also to really know, like, I don't need to send that email right now. It can wait a couple of hours when he's asleep. So he goes down, we have dinner, bath, stories, bedtime, and then I go back to work. Mm-hmm. It has been quite nice to own my own time during this, this past year where it is quite lovely that I can have lunch with him and I can play with him during the day and I can put him down for his nap, and we can have a cookie break in the middle of the day. And then I go back to work and my parents take care of him. It's been such a gift. So regardless of the fact that I may be a little bit more tired, there are definitely the days where for whatever reason, my creative time is between 2 and 4 in the morning. So I will often get up and do work, or brainstorm something or pull apart, an issue and come up with different options and send my sister and brother-in-law lots of emails. But then, I get to have breakfast with him and we walk to daycare and that's kind of our time. I think one of the other things and yes, it's hard because, there are lots of times where I just wish someone else was here to help me with the moments where he's being, a 2.5, 3-year-old. He's very determined little boy, which, I love, but then the other part's like, just please put your boots on.
Mama's tired. Like, come on.
Exactly. Yeah. But then it's, if he wants to wear pajamas to school and, it is just fine. And I'll take the win of him, at least wearing pajamas and put his clothes in his bag. And, half an hour after he's at daycare, he's in his clothes. I mean,
that's awesome.
Really trying to become comfortable with it doesn't have to be a perfect way. And we're going to get through this the way we do. And just make sure that I'm as present for both of us as possible.
Yeah.
But
it's awesome.
It definitely is hard. And having, being an entrepreneur and, the highs are so high and the lows can be so low. And it is a very delicate dance every day of financial management. And then there are certainly times where I just wish someone else would do the dishes, or I just wish someone else would make me dinner or get me coffee or pay the bills. I got in the car the other day and was late and I was like, I have no gas. You have to push the car. Like just having someone else there would be really nice. But, I think our relationship, my sons and I, like it's stronger because it is just the two of us. And, it, as nice as it would be to have someone else, I feel extremely lucky that, that it is just us.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Well, my girls are 10 and 15, and I can tell you it does get easier as far as, logistics and timing and
thank you
scheduling, because when they're 3, the schedule revolves around them. When they need to sleep, when they need to eat, when they need to go to the bathroom, it can't be, you can't say, look, we'll deal with that in 20 minutes. Just go sit over there with a book, right? It doesn't quite work that way. But once they get 6, 7, 8, it does, you can say, take your book and sit over there and I'll be with you in 20 minutes.
Please put your pants on.
Yeah, exactly.
It is amazing. Like, I think if anyone ever recorded our everyday conversation, I would be shocked at the things I have to say. Like, don't do that. Don't stop licking the bottom of your shoe.
Right. So funny. So you talk about socially conscious entrepreneurship, Deanna. What does that mean for you?
For me, it is really looking at how can the business community improve the daily lives of people. I absolutely not only believe that purpose and profit can coexist, I think that purpose fuels profit. when people feel that they are engaged, that they are heard, that they are supporting the betterment of society while they are working, regardless of the task or what they are tackling, when they are connected by the feeling and heart of what they are doing for a greater purpose, I believe that you get better work out of people. I think that you have a higher level of loyalty from not only your employees, but from a customer level as well. And I think that people, especially at times like this where you can feel so disconnected, I think that there is such a strong ability to encourage goodness. And it doesn't have to be grand actions. It can be small moments in time that you celebrate. To me, and this is one of the things that, like going back to school, especially doing an MBA, and really becoming a little bit more clear on who I want to be as not only an individual contributor, but also as a leader. And one of the best parts of this for me, like this experience of owning my own business at this time, has been to know that with every sale we have, we put food on someone's table who wouldn't have had that. Like that is truly like that impact and that feeling of gratitude that I have the chance to help people that way. It really, it fuels the fire.
That's awesome. That's really great. So maybe to wrap it up, tell us a little bit more about the masks, where we can buy them, and different options you have.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we have adult masks and as well as some children's masks. We have reusable, washable filters as well. So you put that in the mask, and then you have a 3-layer mask, which is of the current recommendations right now. In order to help with fit, we have toggles that you put on the elastic and helps to adjust if you need the mask to fit a little bit differently or to customize it. We have holders for the mask as well that are marked dirty and clean. So you know which is dirty and which is clean, because that is the worst thing when you're rummaging around the bottom of your pocket. You're like, oh, I don't know if this is fine or dirty.
Right.
And then we have other things like a hanging organizer that is 5 pockets. It's also washable. And it comes with stickers, washable stickers. So you can label them for individual people, for activities, and they come in a range of colors as well. We have a few other products, but you can see them all on communitymass.ca. We are on Instagram and Facebook at communitymass. And we hope to see you there. Good luck and be safe.
Beautiful. That's awesome. I will put the links to all of that in the show notes. So people, if they're on the treadmill listening, they can just tap on it and it'll take you right to your website. So they don't have to write it down while they're driving or on the treadmill. Well, that was great. That's a really interesting story, and really fascinating how you were able to have a very young son, and during a pandemic and starting a brand new business in a field that you had no experience in, which is manufacturing.
Yes. Zero.
And pull it off in such spectacular fashion. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate, your kind words.
Yeah. And I appreciate your time today. I know you're so busy as an entrepreneur and as a mom. So thank you very much for that. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. You as well. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.